Milwaukee Bucks have quietly been one of the best teams in the NBA, and I see no sign of them stopping. Milwaukee is one of two teams that have 10 wins so far. However, if I told you that they would be dealing with a lot of injuries and they would still be this successful, you might be a little surprised. Obviously, there are so many factors into why Milwaukee's been able to play this well, and I think we obviously need to start with Giannis. I've made a million videos about Giannis. In fact, I made one pretty recently, but I want to do a short segment on this. Obviously, we know Giannis is a very dominant player, but I've noticed that this season he's playing a lot more aggressive. He's playing all around amazing, and it wouldn't surprise me if Giannis was to win an MVP this season. This season, Giannis is averaging 32, 12, and 5 while shooting about 54% from the field. In fact, if he kept up this pace of averaging 32 points per game, it would be a career high. And with the way he's been playing, how dominant he's been, I really don't see any sign of him stopping. Something that I thought was interesting is the Milwaukee Bucks have the #1 defense in the NBA, but yet when you break it down and look at who they have, it really shouldn't be that surprising. One of the reasons why they've been this dominant is because of Brook Lopez and his defensive presence that he's had this season. This season, Brook Lopez is averaging 2.7 blocks, which is second only behind Miles Turner. Now, what you guys might find that's pretty impressive is this season, Brook Lopez has a 95.2 defensive rating, which is top 3 in the NBA. But as I was finding this out, I found some more information that just proves my point about the Milwaukee Bucks and their dominant defense. On the screen right now, we have the top 10 players when it comes to defensive rating, and if we look at this list, we have 3 players on the top 10 that are from the Bucks, with 2 of these guys being in the top 3. And obviously, if you can't tell when it comes to defensive ratings or ratings at all in the NBA, you typically want the lowest one. And I'll say it again, it doesn't surprise me that they're doing well. I've seen a couple games, like for example when they played the Sixers, and they absolutely locked up Joel Embiid. Now of course, this wasn't just a Giannis and Brook Lopez thing, but the amount of players that they have that are really good on the defensive side is kind of troubling for other teams. Guys like Jrue Holiday, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, the Bucks have a bunch of people that are able to play really well on the defensive side. And it absolutely helps when you have a guy like Giannis, who is easily the defensive player of the year every single season, but they can't give him the award every year, so obviously they have to give it to someone else. Something I've been seeing a lot of people say is that, oh, the Bucks are doing well and all, but it's only because they're playing a lot of bad teams. I mean, relatively speaking, the best team that they've played so far this season was the Sixers, who they ended up beating. But there's something we need to talk about. Sure, if Milwaukee was playing a bunch of teams that weren't that good and they were fully healthy, I could completely understand where you're coming from. But the only reason why I really don't care about this is because they've been playing injured. I am yet to see Chris Middleton play this season. I think Giannis has even missed a couple games. Hell, even Jrue Holiday is going to be missing a couple games. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries, and while some teams would use it as an excuse and fold, Milwaukee is 10-1. And if we're being honest, I feel like it's not really Milwaukee's fault. They're just playing who's in front of them. When I take a look at some of these teams, one of the biggest things I really try to look at is their bench and the depth that they have. Obviously, I've talked about injuries, but that's why these injuries really aren't playing that much of a factor. They have guys that can space the floor like Wesley Matthews and Jordan Nwora and Grayson Allen and even Pat Connaughton when he's going to be healthy. The way I'm looking at this team, it seems like it's a 9 to possibly 10 deep man roster, which you really don't see in the NBA anymore. Some people claim that, oh, my team is 13 players deep, but in all honesty, they're not. There's only a few teams that I could tell you that really have a roster that deep, but even then, I'm even having second thoughts. The fact that this team is not fully healthy right now and they're battling injuries and they're 10-1 is very impressive, but also I think it just goes to show that Milwaukee is a very special team. And since we're talking about how deep this team is, I want to bring up a player, one that's not flashy, that's not the craziest scorer. He's someone that plays his role as a defensive guard, and in my opinion, the best defensive guard in the NBA very well. Yes, of course, I am talking about Jrue Holiday. What I think is interesting is that Jrue Holiday is probably Milwaukee's best two-way player besides Giannis. Jrue Holiday is someone that is very good at getting passes to his teammates and be able to create opportunities for them. And of course, we know how amazing Jrue Holiday is on the defensive side. In fact, when we look at that Milwaukee Bucks NBA championship run, I think the one reason why they ended up winning that title was because of Jrue Holiday. Giannis is Giannis, and there's no question about that. But when we really break it down, they had so many years where they were close, but they weren't close enough. And when they got Jrue, they finally had the last piece to the puzzle. This season, I've been contemplating who I think is the best team to come out of the Eastern Conference, and I'm stuck between 2 teams, but when we really look at who has the edge, I gotta give it to Milwaukee. I'm probably gonna reference this part of the video and another one because there's one other team I really want to talk about. If you guys made it this far into the video, if you guys could do me a favor and leave a like on this this video and subscribe to the channel. The support on the videos have been really insane lately, and I cannot thank you guys enough. And because of that, we have a sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Epidemic Sound. Non-copyright music is one of the essentials to being a YouTuber, and it is very hard to find the right songs to use in your videos. However, Epidemic Sound is here to help you. With over 35,000 songs and 90,000 sound effects filtered by different moods and genres and tempos, Epidemic Sound is the perfect place to find music for your videos. I wouldn't be sponsoring something if I didn't actually stand by them, and I've been using Epidemic Sound for the longest time. Shout out to Catherine Manning. I actually found Epidemic Sound through her, and now I want to put you guys on. If you guys use the link in the description below or in my pinned comment, you guys will get a free 30-day trial. Thank you to Epidemic Sound for sponsoring this video. I feel like I didn't really do Brook Lopez enough justice when I gave him a short segment because I really want to talk about the defense as a whole, but we need to discuss Brook Lopez. This season, he's easily playing like one of the best centers in the NBA, and I think he's been the real difference maker for this Bucks team. Like I mentioned earlier, he's second in blocks and he's top 3 in defensive net rating. Something else that really impressed me is the fact that Brook Lopez leads the NBA in contested shots per game with 17.7, which also leads him in contested shots per 36 with 21.2. If you haven't been able to tell, when the other team is trying to essentially space the floor out, Brook Lopez is able to use his frame to essentially contest a lot of the shots, and like I mentioned earlier, he's very good inside the paint. And one of the ways we can display this is by showing the contested twos per game, which Brook Lopez leads with 15.2. So when I tell you Brook Lopez has a vital role on this Milwaukee defense, I really do mean it. Now it got me thinking, what is the difference between Milwaukee's defense this season and in past seasons? What was the change? And well, I think I have the answer. Mike Budenholzer is one of the best when it comes to adjustments, and something that I've noticed is that Milwaukee is no longer content to just giving up threes. Like I mentioned earlier, Brook Lopez is someone that is very good at contesting threes, but this isn't just him, this is the team as a whole. In fact, the Milwaukee Bucks this season have only allowed 32 attempted threes per game, which was a drastic drop compared to last season. So if they're not taking a lot of threes and they've been very good at clogging up the paint, well, obviously they're trying to take mid-range shots, but you have a guy like Brook Lopez who's able to basically stop that. I would also like to say that Brook Lopez is one of the best centers in the NBA when it comes to drop coverage. And as I say all these things, it's starting to add up. Not only do the Bucks have an MVP candidate player in Giannis Antetokounmpo, not only do they have really good bench depth, not only has Chris Middleton not played a single game this year, but they have the best defense in the NBA. And to be honest, I see no sign of them stopping.
No focus, my crew game paid. I got a 30, my nigga got 50, that's 30 for 30 and 60 for 20. Back on the block when these niggas, they see me, they know we was dirty, but now we get money. We pulling off double law, a Hellcat, Lambo truck, say you niggas ain't ready. If you want smoke, yeah, my niggas on steady. Do it 160 inside of the belly.